Hello everyone, welcome to my show. I'm the Empath, and today we have some Bible Babble. So, last we left off, we were still in Exodus, and we were starting into chapter 35. I'm sorry if I'm too bright. It looks too bright for the recording, but whatever. We'll see how it goes. You're probably not watching anyway, just listening, so works out anyway. Regulations for the Sabbath. Moses called together the whole community of the people of Israel and said to them, "This is what the Lord has commanded you to do. You have 6 days in which to do your work, but the seventh day is to be sacred, a solemn day of rest dedicated to me, the Lord. Anyone who does any work on that day is to be put to death. Do not even light a fire in your homes on the Sabbath." Oh. Yeah, that would indicate you're not supposed to do anything. Um yeah. See, I don't think we'd follow it to that level of extreme. I don't know what that would look like. How you'd be able to really function. Are you just supposed to as best you can not wake up? I mean, I don't know. Personally, I think what it should mean is the way that I would view it, if I was, if you're just viewing it as a day of rest, I would view the purpose of the Sabbath to be thankful to God and to relax and be happy. So, whatever you need to do to accomplish those things, then you do those things. You don't workaholic or do a whole bunch of bad, not so good stuff for you. Just be happy. Because you're not even allowed to light a fire in your home. It's, I don't know. Something about that doesn't sound right. So, yeah, not everything in the Bible applies to us word for word. Otherwise, we basically would all be we should all be dead if we applied everything in the Bible word for word. In fact, I would like to see who would be left alive by the standards of the Bible if they followed it, completely to the letter. Pretty sure we'd have to kill everyone on the gosh darn planet. Offerings for the sacred tent. Moses said to all the people of Israel, "This is what the Lord has commanded. Make an offering to the Lord. Everyone who wishes to do so is to bring an offering of gold, silver, or bronze, fine linen, blue, purple, and red wool, cloth made of goat's hair, ram skin dyed red, fine leather, acacia wood, oil for the lamps, spices for the anointing oil, and for the sweet-smelling incense, carnelians and other jewels to be set in the ephod and breastpiece of the high priest." Okay, so they're basically asking everyone else for the materials, which makes sense. Articles for the tent of the Lord's presence. All the skilled workmen among you are to come and make everything that the Lord commanded. The tent, its covering and its outer covering, its hooks and its frames, its crossbars, its posts and its bases, the covenant box, its poles, its lid, and the curtain to screen it off. The table, its poles, and all its equipment, the bread offered to God, the lampstands for the light and its equipment, the lamps with their oil, the altar for burning incense and its poles, the anointing oil, the sweet-smelling incense, the curtain for the entrance of the tent, the altar on which to burn offerings, with its bronze grating attached, its poles and all its equipment, the wash basin and its base, the curtains for the enclosure, its posts and bases, the curtain for the entrance of the enclosure, the tent pegs, and ropes for the tent and the enclosure, and the magnificent garments the priests are to wear when they serve in the holy place, the sacred clothes for Aaron the priest and for his sons. Yeah, there are plenty of times in the Bible where they will restate things a lot and state just this was a thing. So basically, setting. And yeah, uh, good luck. Good luck, anybody trying to pull out a decent sermon that talks about the building of these tents and stuff. People probably can do it and have done it, but like, I don't know. It just sometimes it feels a little superfluous when I'm reading it. Like back then when it was, a thing, not so superfluous. But for us now, kinda is. But I guess it has applications in context of the rest of the story. So giving you context and understanding of the rest of things. The people bring their offerings. All the people of Israel left, and everyone who wished to do so brought an offering to the Lord for making the tent of the Lord's presence. They brought everything needed for use in worship and for making the priestly garments. All who wanted to, both men and women, brought decorative pins, earrings, rings, necklaces, and all kinds of gold jewelry and dedicated them to the Lord. Makes sense, they weren't going to wear them anymore after the incident with the bull. Everyone who had fine linen, blue, purple, or red wool, cloth of goat's hair, ram skin dyed red, or fine leather, brought it. All who were able to contribute silver or bronze brought their offering for the Lord. And all who had acacia wood, which would be used for any of the work, brought it. All the skilled women brought fine linen thread and thread of blue, purple, and red wool, which they had made. They also made thread of goat's hair. The leaders brought carnelians and other jewels to be set in the ephod and the breastpiece, and spices and oil for the lamps, for the anointing oil, and for the sweet-smelling incense. All the people of Israel who wanted to brought their offering to the Lord for the work which he had commanded Moses to do. Craftsmen for the tent of the Lord's presence. Moses said to the Israelites, "The Lord has chosen Bezalel, the son of Uri and the grandson of Hur from the tribe of Judah. God has filled him with his power and given him skill, ability, and understanding for every kind of artistic work, for planning skillful designs and working them in gold, silver, and bronze, for cutting jewels to be set, for carving wood, and for every other kind of artistic work. The Lord has given to him and to Aholiab, son of Ahisamach, from the tribe of Dan, the ability to teach their crafts to others. He has given them skill in all kinds of work done by engravers, designers, and weavers of fine linen, blue, purple, and red wool, and other cloth. They are able to do all kinds of work and are skillful designers." Chapter 36. Bezalel, Aholiab, and all the other craftsmen to whom the Lord has given skill and understanding, who know how to make everything, needed to build the sacred tent, or to make everything just as the Lord has commanded. The people bring many gifts. Moses called Bezalel, Aholiab, and all the other skilled men to whom the Lord had given ability and who were willing to help, and Moses told them to start working. Sorry, like I said, I yawn a lot. They received from him all the offerings which the Israelites had brought for constructing the sacred tent. But the people of Israel continued to bring Moses their offerings every morning. Then the skilled men who were doing the work went and told Moses, "The people are bringing more than is needed for the work which the Lord commanded to be done." So Moses sent a command throughout the camp that no one was to make any further contribution for the sacred tent, so the people did not bring any more. What had already been brought was more than enough to finish all the work. It's good to know. Making the tent of the Lord's presence. The most skilled men among those during the work made the tent of the Lord's presence. They made it out of 10 pieces of fine linen woven with blue, purple, and red wool, embroidered with figures of winged creatures. Each piece was the same size, 14 yards long and 2 yards wide. They sewed 5 of them together in one set and did the same with the other 5. They made loops of blue cloth on the edge of the outside piece in each set. They put 50 loops on the first piece of the first set and 50 loops matching them on the last piece of the second set. They made 50 gold hooks with which to join the 2 sets into one piece. Then they made a cover for the tent of 11 pieces of cloth made of goat's hair. They made them all the same size, 15 yards long and 2 yards wide. They sewed 5 of them together in one set and the other 6 in another set. They put 50 loops on the edge of the last piece of one set and 50 loops on the edge of the other set. They made 50 bronze hooks to join the 2 sets so as to form one cover. They made 2 more coverings, one of ram skin dyed red and the other of fine leather, to serve as an outer cover. They made upright frames of acacia wood for the tent. Each frame was 15 feet tall and 27 inches wide, with 2 matching projections, so that the frames could be joined together. All the frames had these projections. Yeah, I just lost my place. All the frames had these projections. They made 20 frames for the south side and 40 silver bases to go under them, 2 bases under each frame to hold its 2 projections. They made 20 frames for the north side of the tent and 40 silver bases, 2 under each frame. For the back of the tent on the west they made 6 frames, and 2 frames for the corners. These corner frames were joined on the bottom and connected all the way to the top. The 2 frames that formed the 2 corners were made in this way. So there were 8 frames and 16 silver bases, 2 under each frame. They made 15 crossbars of acacia wood, 5 for the frames on one side of the tent, 5 for the frames on the other side, and 5 for the frames on the west end, at the back. The middle crossbar, set halfway up the frames, extended from one end of the tent to the other. They covered the frames with gold and fitted them with gold rings to hold the crossbars, which were also covered with gold. They made a curtain of fine linen, woven with blue, purple, and red wool, and embroidered it with the figures of winged creatures. They made 4 posts of acacia wood to hold the curtain, covered them with gold, and fitted them with gold hooks. Then they made 4 silver bases to hold the posts. For the entrance of the tent, they made a curtain of fine linen woven with blue, purple, and red wool, and decorated with embroidery. For this curtain they made 5 posts fitted with hooks, covered their tops and their rods with gold, and made 5 bronze bases for the posts. Chapter 37, Making the Covenant Box. Yeah, I'm going to read through most of this pretty quickly, considering that it's just kind of hashing stuff out. Bezalel made the covenant box out of acacia wood, 45 inches long, 27 inches wide, and 27 inches high. He covered it with pure gold inside and out and put a gold border all around it. He made 4 carrying rings of gold for it and attached them to its 4 feet, with 2 rings on each side. He made carrying poles of acacia wood, covered them with gold, and put them through the rings on each side of the box. He made a lid of pure gold, 45 inches long and 27 inches wide. He made 2 winged creatures of hammered gold, 1 for each end of the lid. He made them so that they formed one piece with the lid. The winged creatures faced each other across the lid, and their outspread wings covered it. Making the table for the bread offered to God. He made the table out of acacia wood, 36 inches long, 18 inches wide, and 27 inches high. He covered it with pure gold and put a gold border around it. He made a rim 3 inches wide around it and put a gold border around the rim. He made 4 carrying rings of gold for it and put them at the 4 corners, where the legs were. The rings to hold the poles for carrying the table were placed near the rim. He made the poles of acacia wood and covered them with gold. He made the dishes of pure gold for the table, plates, the cups, the jars, and the bowls to be used for the wine offering. Making the lampstand. He made the lampstand of pure gold. He made its base and its shaft of hammered gold. Its decorative flowers, including buds and petals, formed one piece with it. 6 branches extended from its sides, 3 from each side. Each of the 6 branches had 3 decorative flowers shaped like almond blossoms with buds and petals. The shaft of the lampstand had 4 decorative flowers shaped like almond blossoms with buds and petals. There was 1 bud below each of the 3 pairs of branches. The buds, the branches, and the lampstand were a single piece of pure hammered gold. He made 7 lamps for the lampstand, and he made its tongs and trays of pure gold. He used 75 pounds of pure gold to make the lampstand and all its equipment. That's a lot of gold. Making the altar for burning incense. He made an altar out of acacia wood for burning incense. It was square, 18 inches long and 18 inches wide, and it was 36 inches high. Its projections at the 4 corners formed one piece with it. He covered its top, all four sides, and its projections with pure gold, and put a gold border around it. He made 2 gold carrying rings for it and attached them below the border on the 2 sides to hold the poles with which it was to be carried. He made the poles of acacia wood and covered them with gold, making the anointing oil and the incense. He also made the sacred anointing oil and the pure sweet-smelling incense mixed like perfume. Chapter 38. Making the altar for burning offerings. For burning offerings, he made an altar out of acacia wood. It was square, 7.5 feet long and 7.5 feet wide, and it was 4.5 feet high. It's a square, but not exactly even all the way around. He made the projections at the top of the 4 corners so that they formed one piece with the altar. He covered it all with bronze. He also made all the equipment for the altar: the pans, the shovels, the bowls, the hooks, and the fire pans. All his equipment was made of bronze. He made a bronze grating and put it under the rim of the altar so that it reached halfway up the altar. He made 4 carrying rings and put them on the 4 corners. He made carrying poles of acacia wood, covered them with bronze, and put them in the rings on each side of the altar. The altar was made of boards and was hollow. Making the bronze basin. He made the bronze basin and its bronze base out of the mirrors belonging to the women who served at the entrance of the tent of the Lord's presence. The enclosure for the tent of the Lord's presence. For the tent of the Lord's presence, he made the enclosure out of fine linen curtains. On the south side, the curtains were 50 yards long, supported by 20 bronze posts and 20 bronze bases, with hooks and rods made of silver. The enclosure was the same on the north side. On the west side, there were curtains 25 yards long, with 10 posts and 10 bases, and with hooks and rods made of silver. On the east side, where the entrance was, the enclosure was also 25 yards wide. On each side of the entrance there were 7.5 yards of curtains, with 3 posts and 3 bases. All the curtains around the enclosure were made of fine linen. The bases for the posts were made of bronze. The hooks, the rods, and the covering of the tops of the posts were made of silver. All the posts around the enclosure were connected with silver rods. The curtain for the entrance of the enclosure was made of fine linen woven with blue, purple, and red wool and decorated with embroidery. It was 10 yards long and 2.5 yards high, like the curtains of the enclosure. It was supported by 4 posts and 4 bronze bases. Their hooks, the coverings of their tops, and their rods were made of silver. All the pegs for the tent and the surrounding enclosure were made of bronze. Metals used in the tent of the Lord's presence. Here is a list of the amounts of the metals used in the tent of the Lord's presence, where the 2 stone tablets were kept, on which the 10 commandments were written. The list was ordered by Moses and made by the Levites who worked under the direction of Ithamar, son of Aaron the priest. Bezalel, the son of Uri and grandson of Hur from the tribe of Judah, made everything that the Lord commanded. His helper, Aholiab, son of Ahisamach, from the tribe of Dan, was an engraver, a designer, and a weaver of fine linen, and of blue, purple, and red wool. All the gold that had been dedicated to the Lord for the sacred tent weighed 2,195 pounds. I'd be rich. Weighed according to the official standard. The silver from the census of the community weighed 7,550 pounds. Weighed according to the official standard, this amount equaled the total paid by all persons enrolled in the census, each one paying the required amount. Weighed according to the official standard, there were 603,550 men 20 years old or older enrolled in the census. Of the silver, 7,500 pounds were used to make the 100 bases for the sacred tent and for the curtain, 75 pounds for each base. The remaining 50 pounds of silver Bezalel made the rods, the hooks for the posts, and the covering for their tops. The bronze, which was dedicated to the Lord, amounted to 5,310 pounds. With it, he made the bases for the entrance of the tent for the Lord's presence. The bronze altar with its bronze grating, all the equipment for the altar, the bases for the surrounding enclosure and for the entrance of the enclosure, and all the pegs of the tent and the surrounding enclosure. So much words. Chapter 39. Making the garments for the priests. With the blue, purple, and red wool they made the magnificent garments which the priests were to wear when they served in the holy place. Puppies! I don't know what they're barking at. Probably see animals up there. They made the priestly garments for Aaron as the Lord commanded Moses. They made the ephod of fine linen, blue, purple, and red wool, and gold thread. They hammered out sheets of gold and cut them into thin strips to be worked into the fine linen and into the blue, purple, and red wool. They made 2 shoulder straps for the ephod and attached them to its sides, so that it could be fastened. The finely woven belt, made of the same materials, was attached to the ephod so as to form one piece with it. Thanks. As the Lord commanded Moses. They prepared the carnelians and mounted them in gold settings. They were skillfully engraved with the names of the 12 sons of Jacob. They put them on the shoulder straps of the ephod to represent the 12 tribes of Israel, just as the Lord commanded Moses. Making the breastpiece. They made the breastpiece of the same materials as the ephod and with similar embroidery. It was square and folded double, 9 inches long and 9 inches wide. They mounted 4 rows of precious stones on it. In the first row they mounted a ruby, a topaz, and a garnet. In the second row an emerald, a sapphire, and a diamond. In the third row a turquoise, an agate, and an amethyst. And in the fourth row a beryl, a carnelian, and a jasper. These were mounted in gold settings. Each of the 12 stones had engraved on it the name of one of the sons of Jacob in order to represent the 12 tribes of Israel. For the breastpiece they made chains of pure gold, twisted like cords. They made 2 gold settings and 2 gold rings, and attached the 2 rings to the upper corners of the breastpiece. They fastened the 2 gold cords to their 2 rings, and fastened to the other 2 ends of the cords to the 2 settings, and in this way attached them in front of the shoulder straps of the ephod. They made 2 rings of gold and attached them to the lower corners of the breastpiece and on the inside edge next to the ephod. They made 2 more gold rings and attached them to the lower part of the front of the 2 shoulder straps of the ephod, near the seam and above the finely woven belt. Just as the Lord commanded Moses, they tied the rings of the breastpiece to the rings of the ephod with a blue cord, so that the breastpiece rested above the belt and did not come loose. Making the other priestly garments. I'm sorry. The robe that goes over the ephod was made entirely of blue wool. The hole for the head was reinforced with a woven binding to keep it from tearing. All around its lower hem they put pomegranates of fine linen and blue, purple, and red wool, alternating with bells of pure gold, just as the Lord had commanded Moses. They made the shirts for Aaron and his sons, and the turban, the caps, the linen shorts, the sash of fine linen, and of blue, purple, and red wool, decorated with the embroidery as the Lord commanded Moses. They made the ornament, the sacred sign of dedication, out of pure gold, and they engraved on it dedicated to the Lord. They tied it to the front of the turban with a blue cord, just as the Lord commanded Moses. The completion of the work. All the work on the tent of the Lord's presence was finally completed. The Israelites made everything just as the Lord commanded Moses. They brought to Moses the tent and all its equipment, its hooks, its frames, its crossbars, its posts, and its bases, the covering of ram skin dyed red, the covering of fine leather, the curtain, the covenant box containing the stone tablets, its poles, and its lid, the table and all its equipment, and the bread offered to God. The lampstand of pure gold, its lamps, all its equipment, and the oil for the lamps, the gold altar, the anointing oil, the sweet-smelling incense, the curtain of the entrance of the tent, the bronze altar with its bronze grating, its poles, and all its equipment, the wash basin and its base, the curtains for the enclosure and its posts and bases, the curtain for the entrance of the enclosure and its ropes, tent pegs, all the equipment to be used in the tent, and the magnificent garments the priests were to wear in the holy place, the sacred clothes for Aaron the priest and for his sons. The Israelites had done all the work just as the Lord commanded Moses. Moses examined everything and saw that they had made it all just as the Lord had commanded. So Moses blessed them. Chapter 40. Setting up and dedicating the tent of the Lord's presence. The Lord said to Moses, "On the first day of the first month, set up the tent of the Lord's presence. Place in it the covenant box containing the 10 Commandments, and put the curtain in front of it. Bring in the table and place the equipment on it. Also, bring in the lampstand and set up the lamps on it. Put the gold altar for burning incense in front of the covenant box, and hang the curtain at the entrance of the tent. Put in front of the tent the altar for burning offerings. Put the wash basin between the tent and the altar and fill it with water. Put up the surrounding enclosure and hang the curtain at its entrance. Then dedicate the tent and all its equipment by anointing it with the sacred oil, and it will be holy. Next, dedicate the altar and all its equipment by anointing it, and it will be completely holy. Also dedicate the wash basin and its base in the same way. Bring Aaron and his sons to the entrance of the tent, and have them take a ritual bath. Dress Aaron in the priestly garments. Anoint him, and in this way consecrate him, so that he can serve me as priest. Bring his sons and put the shirts on them. Then anoint them, just as you anointed their father, so that they can serve me as priests. This anointing will make them priests for all time to come. Moses did everything just as the Lord commanded. So on the first day of the first month of the second year after they left Egypt, the tent of the Lord's presence was set up. Moses put down its bases, set up its frames, attached its crossbars, and put up its posts. He spread out the covering over the tent and put the outer covering over it, just as the Lord had commanded. Then he took the 2 stone tablets and put them in the covenant box. He put the poles in the rings of the box and put the lid on it. Then he put the box in the tent and hung up the curtain. In this way he screened off the covenant box, just as the Lord commanded. He put the table in the tent and on the north side outside the curtain, and placed on it the bread offered to the Lord, just as the Lord had commanded. He put the lampstand in the tent on the south side, opposite the table, and there in the Lord's presence he lit the lamps, just as the Lord commanded. He put the gold altar in the tent in front of the curtain, and burned the sweet-smelling incense, just as the Lord commanded. He hung the curtain at the entrance of the tent, and there, in front of the curtain, he placed the altar for burning offerings. On it he sacrificed the burnt offering and the grain offering, just as the Lord commanded. He put the wash basin between the tent and the altar, and filled it with water. Moses, Aaron, and his sons washed their hands and their feet there, whenever they went into the tent, or to the altar, just as the Lord commanded. Moses set up the enclosure around the tent and the altar, and hung the curtain at the entrance of the enclosure. So he finished all the work. The cloud over the tent of the Lord's presence. Then the cloud covered the tent, and the dazzling light of the Lord's presence filled it. Because of this, Moses could not go into the tent. The Israelites moved their camp to another place only when the cloud lifted from the tent. As long as the cloud stayed there, they did not move their camp. During all their wanderings, they could see the cloud of the Lord's presence over the tent during the day, and a fire burning above it during the night. And that, ladies and gents, is the ending of Exodus. So, yeah, power reading through that. Finished up Exodus today. I'm happy with that. Alright, so, yeah. I don't remember what happens. The next book is Leviticus. I don't remember if that's, more of the kind of tedious stuff, or if there's a little bit more, like, what we would think to be story stuff. So, I don't know. You'll have to just tune in the next time I upload. I'd say tune in tomorrow, but I think we both know at this point that I'm not good for that kind of a promise. I will try, though. I'll probably fail, but I'll try. So, thank you very much for watching. Like and favorite if you enjoy. Subscribe to become a VIP today, and I will see you all next time. Have a great day.